guys, thanks for tuning in for another weekly comics wrap-up. I know last week's video was kind of a mixture of superhero and non-superhero, but this week I think is going to be mostly superhero books. And I'm going to start off by the first book I read this week was Alpha Flight Classic. This is volume 2, and I'm probably one of the few people who lives in the U.S. that actually likes Alpha Flight, which is a Canadian superhero team. I really like this team, but this book was just okay. It's a classic. It's written by John Byrne, so of course, if you're into classic X-Men, you may also like the classic Alpha Flight. They're kind of very similar, but just with a Canadian theme. So it's kind of have that same art style as the classic X-Men. This volume had the death of Guardian, who was the leader of Alpha Flight, James Hudson or whatnot. But I just thought this one was just okay. It did have a guest appearance by Submariner and the X-Men. I thought it was just okay, so I rated this 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Next up we have Miss Marvel Volume 3, Crushed. And I gotta be completely honest with you guys, I always tell you guys exactly how I feel about books. I don't beat around the bush. I don't go with the trends just because everybody else says something's great. I'm not going to be one of those people to lie to you and say that. Well, anyways, one of my impressions about this book was the first volume was absolutely great. And it was a great story just because Miss Marvel was a new character. She was a new hero. And yes, she's very diversified. I think it's pretty cool that they have a Muslim female character and that there is some diversity in comics now. But one of the things that made the Volume 1 so good and so great was that she was new, she was just learning her abilities. We weren't even really sure exactly what Miss Marvel was going to be capable of doing. So I picked up Volume 2, and Volume 2 was just okay. It had some really lame points, but it was still entertaining because it featured a lot of cameos. And yes, this one did feature a cameo. It had Loki in it. And it does tie in with a S.H.I.E.L.D. comic, I guess, that they're doing. I'm not going to say any more about it. I don't want to spoil it in case you want to read it. But this really, really stunk, guys. It's really bad. And this, I have to say, is suitable for teen girls because it's getting all romancy. And it's just not... And I have to say, a lot of people like this that don't like superhero books. So, yeah, it's not a superhero book by all means, even though it is a Marvel character. Well, one of the things I kept thinking about, this character, her powers are kind of lame. She's I can imagine them sitting around Marvel office and they're like, hey, why did we never give Mr. Fantastic his own solo book? Gee, I don't know. But let's make it different. Let's make Mr. Fantastic a girl. And I got an even better one. Let's make him Muslim, too. Yeah. Okay, Miss Marvel is nothing but Mr. Fantastic. I only rated this 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It's garbage, guys. Okay, up next you have The Flash Volume 4, and this one is just called Reverse. Now, I know that the New 52 is all about, rebranding DC Comics. It was all about, making new, just creating new lore for traditional heroes. But this one is about the Reverse Flash, and yes, Volume 3 had kind of introduced the Reverse Flash in it. It kind of showed his creation, his origin. But this one kind of re-emphasized that after going through, it kind of rehashed his origin and who he was. And This did have great artwork. Like this cover that's pretty darn cool. But story-wise, I think it was kind of lacking. The Reverse Flash origin was kind of lame. It wasn't as interesting as the original Flash. If you did not know, the original Reverse Flash was some guy from the future who just wanted to be so much like the Flash, and eventually, because he was stopped by the Flash so many times, that he kind of grew to hate the Flash instead of admiring him. This guy, it's a whole different story, and I'm not going to reveal exactly what his deal is because I don't want to spoil it for you unless you want to read it. But let's just say it's completely different. Not saying this was totally bad. It wasn't great either, but it was just okay, and I only rated it 3 out of 5 stars. After that, I picked up Resurrection Man Volume 1, Dead Again. I saw this character back in another New 52 book, and I was like, wow, he's kind of interesting. What's the deal with this guy? And I have to admit, I don't know what he was originally before it became a New 52. I don't know that this guy was a part of a series before the New 52, or if he was just a slightly lesser known character in the original DC universe. I don't know his exact origins. I just know the New 52 origin for him. And basically what he is like every time this guy dies, he comes back with some kind of new power. And the powers don't stack. Okay, I want to just throw that out there. They don't stack, so it's not like he's like a Superman where he's got like various powers. No, they're more or less kind of situational. Like if something happened to him and when he comes back, he's like a chameleon. Like whatever, the power will help him survive. Like it'll keep him alive so he can't die again. So I found that concept really interesting, and it really makes for an exciting book because how can that get boring? Like, I mean, you could do so many stories based around that, and I couldn't see it really getting boring. But this was a great first issue, or first volume for this character. The flashback sequence where, because he kind of forgets who he was, and he has a flashback memory of who he used to be, and kind of, the dialogue in that scene was really cheesy, but I totally overlooked that because the rest of the story was just so great. It kind of made up for that badness of the dialogue in that flashback scene. But yeah, this is a great start to a series. I'm kind of eager to pick up Volume 2. I don't know that they continued this. I mean, maybe this was one of the series that got shut down by DC. I know that they did a lot of these New 52s and they didn't last, but I don't know how far they got with this one. But I really enjoyed this, and I thought it was a 4 out of 5 star book. Definitely something worth checking out. Perhaps I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if you're not into superhero books, maybe you would like this one just because the element of it. It's kind of supernatural, but it's kind of not. It's hard to explain. Next up we have Avengers Time Runs Out Part 2. I kind of feel the same way about this one as I did about Part 1, which I read last week, where it kind of feels like it's awkward because there's so many different like versions of people. Like there's 2 Hulks, and why does Captain America look like he's 80 years old? And this one was slightly better than Part 1, but still, I was still like, what exactly is going on with this? It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. So I also rated this one 3 out of 5 stars. It seems kind of awkward the way they portioned out this story, so hopefully if I read it in its entirety, it'll make a little more sense. I mean, I do have to say, I've read some single issues from the Secret Wars, and they didn't make me feel like as combobbled as I feel reading this. So, I don't know, we'll have to see. But that's that one. I know I've talked to you guys about like interlibrary loans and how sometimes you can convince your library to borrow other books from other other college libraries or other libraries in different states. And that's why I ended up reading out of order the classic Alpha Flight books, because one of them was due sooner than another. Well, anyways, I'm not. This is hardbound. For some reason, this library chose to hardbind a paperback graphic novel, and of course, this is Alpha Flight Volume 1. And that's why I'm going to show you this instead of the outer cover, because the outer cover has nothing on it but my interlibrary loan information with my name and everything. Well, anyways, this is the first 8 books of the Alpha Flight series, and I'm kind of glad I read Volume 2 before reading this, because this was really okay. It was not all that great. It was kind of interesting to see the origins of Alpha Flight, but I think I got more origin backstories from Volume 2, because that went into each character's origin, but whereas this one was just like, hey, this is Alpha Flight. And it did have Namor and Invisible Woman for guest appearances or whatever, and I think X-Men were in the beginning of this. But one of the things I got from reading these classic Alpha Flight, and it's kind of funny, but it's like Aurora, is she like the teen fluffer, because they use her as a way to calm, and I gotta say, calm in quotes, the Sasquatch. Because they'll say, Guardian will be like, hey, Aurora, go calm down the Sasquatch, and she goes over, does whatever she does, but they don't ever show no scenes, and then it's like, they're in some kind of romantic, like, sex thing relationship. So I thought that was kind of funny, but, like, yeah. But this was okay. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. It did have these character bios in the back. But like I said, it was just okay. I mean, for a first volume, it was alright. Okay, so this is probably where I'm going to end my Comics Weekly wrap-up with Alpha Flight Volume 1, the complete series. This is a reworking, reintroduction of Alpha Flight. It collects issues 0.1 through 8. And this is, I guess it's a reworking, I guess you would say, because it's kind of... It's like the original classic Alpha Flight, but it's modernized and contemporary. Like Marina has like piercings, and of course, North Star is gay, like that happened in one of the X books or something. But yeah, I mean, this was okay. This took place during the Fear Itself storyline, and I don't know if that was why they came back with the Alpha Flight gang, but the story was kind of lame. It was like a really bad story, but it was nice to see Alpha Flight back in action. The story was really bad, though, and of course it brought back their classic villain, the Master of the World, or whatever. I always thought he was the lamest villain, so like I don't know why they couldn't have made up somebody else or used Wendigo. But I mean, Wendigo was in this, but he wasn't like a main villain. But yeah, this was just okay. It was, like I said, it was nice to see Alpha Flight back, and it had Guardian and Vindicator, and yeah, it was just a little hodgepodge. And there's like a backstory going on within the Fear Itself thing involving Alpha Flight. I only rated this 3 out of 5 stars. It was just okay. I did enjoy it. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't terrible, and it wasn't that great either. But that's that. I'm going to upload this on a Saturday just because today is Friday. I'm going to film a hashtag Friday Reads, put that up. So I usually upload these on Fridays if I don't have a new book for hashtag Friday Reads. So as always, questions, comments down below. Let me know if you've read any of these. If you intend on reading any of these, let me know. I'd like to hear that you guys want to read some of these books I showed you. Thanks for watching. Until next time, later, guys.